Oh, you got her, dude. She's down. Let's go.
Dude, I just shot a deer of a lifetime.
Freaking smoked him.
One with nature, and if you're a believer, one with God.
Definitely gets your heart pumping. Boy, you are in trouble.
Fall Obsession Podcast.
Well, welcome back, everybody, to another week of our Fall Obsession Podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in. I am Sam Thrash with Fall Obsession, your host for this week's episode. And joining me again this week are our guests from last week, our pro staffer Kurt Echelberry and our good friend Jeff Hasselbach. Welcome, guys. Glad to have you on again.
Hey, thanks for having us back.
Yeah, thanks, man.
You bet. We got a good opportunity to talk to you guys last week about some turkey hunting, and really enjoyed that conversation. So if you guys haven't checked out last week's podcast on turkey hunting with these two fellers, then go ahead and do that. But this week we have a little bit different type of conversation in store because Mr. Jeff here killed a true stud of a whitetail last year. So we are going to talk to him about that, kind of recap that hunt, and I believe also some other members of his family that killed some good deer last year.
Yeah, I think we got some nice deer to talk about.
For sure, man. So before we dive into it, I'll kind of let you briefly introduce yourself again and talk about where you hunt, and just maybe give folks a little bit of background on just kind of some previous whitetail experiences and the caliber of deer that you're typically seeing on your hunting grounds. I'm not asking you to give away your secrets or anything. You can generalize it for folks, but
You can tell me though if you want. I don't mind. I'll take the coordinates.
Yeah, to be honest with you, man, I don't try to keep secrets, I guess. You know, I try to share it all, whatever I know, with everybody else. But man, I'm just turned 39 years old. I killed my first deer when I was 10, you know, with my grandpa, and kind of been doing it ever since then. Since added, you know, my wife hunts, my son JT hunts, and our daughter hopefully will also be getting involved in it. But I've killed several, you know, decent bucks, man. I've everyone's got a pretty good story, you know. There was one. I was hunting, you know, I farmed a little bit on the side, had a rainy day, and I had a nice buck within 30 yards of me. I climbed down out of a climbing tree stand. I climbed down and almost walked to this deer, and he come across the creek and provided me with my first archery kill, you know, and that was really cool. But to say the least, man, I mean, this year's deer was by far the best deer that I've ever killed. But it was a struggle this year, man. I try to get out, you know, find some deer for the kids and that, you know, do a little preseason scouting, hang some cameras, make my own mineral, you know. We run several mineral sites and that. And it's funny because I had even put a picture on Facebook this year, and I had two deer that were like, had the smallest and most deformed set of antlers you could find, and I said, you know, this is my 2020 season's going, you know, and hadn't had any decent bucks, and went to Coshocton down in southern Ohio, hunted down there for a while. I go down there usually once a month, I'm sorry, during the deer season. We got a little deer camp down there and that, and had a nice buck come right in behind me. We about shook hands, but there's nothing, I couldn't get a shot off at him, so I was kind of bummed about that. Other than that, you know, I mean, just hunt northern Ohio most of the time, you know, a little bit of southern Ohio. I kind of go down there, a little more challenging in the hills and that.
Gotcha. So you mentioned that your 2020 season you had small bucks, trash horns type deal, so you really didn't have any big hopes going into the 2020 season, it sounds like, up there.
Man, I really didn't. I really didn't think anything like this was going to happen, and I'm not by any means a trophy hunter. You know, I mean, I'll shoot a decent deer. I'm not going to shoot, a 2-year-old deer though. You know, I mean, I'll let
Right.
him walk, but by any means, I'm not out there, trying to kill every 180-inch deer in the woods. You know what I mean? But some people take it a little more to the more extreme than by far what I do. You know what I mean? I'm just there for be outdoors and to experience it.
Absolutely. So again, as we already mentioned, you did end up with a stud whitetail this year. So expectations were lower going into the season, but take us into this story a little bit and kind of when that turning point was, when you realized that you had a stud on your hands here.
I will say, probably the turning point for me was when I was sitting in my tree and I turned around and seen this huge antler poking around the side of the tree at me. I think that was the turning point for me. I guess to begin this, I was just had a day off or whatever, and they started shelling the corn around the woods that I was hunting. And that normally, when that's going on, that combine moves the deer around quite a bit, and wanted to get out there. And me and JT sat out there for the first half that they shelled, and then they got rained out, so it'd been a couple weeks. They hadn't been back in there, and I went out. Previously had hung another stand in the tree, so me and JT could hunt together. And he had fell and broke his wrist playing football at school 2 days before.
Oh man.
So yeah, he was unable to be with me, but I was just out there, kind of watching things unfold. Had a few deer running around, and nothing really to get too excited over. And I was facing in my tree, kind of facing to the west, watching this combine. And next thing I know, he's coming, just kind of opening it up around the woods that I was sitting in. And I hear something behind me, and I look, and there's this giant buck standing there. And I'm sitting down, ain't got my bow in my hand or anything. I'm like, man, this is not a good position to be in. But it was windy, you know what I mean? And he hadn't gotten into my wind or anything like that. So I just kind of tucked back. I was in a pretty big tree. I got kind of put that between me and him and stood up and grabbed my bow. Well, he had started running to the downwind side of me, got my wind, and he instantly turned around and stopped almost right behind me in the spot that I'd first seen him. I pulled up, took a shot, and instantly heard the crack. And I'm like, oh man. I had one tree in between me and him, and my arrow was just lit up in the tree.
Oh man.
Had an arrow hanging out of the tree. That buck, and then he ran from the north side of me, ran around to the south side of me. So I had, had my harness on and that. I had to completely spin around with that thing in there and knocked another arrow. Well, I just, I didn't think about it. I just grabbed an arrow out of my quiver and knocked it up. Well, I always keep one arrow on there for a coyote or anything like that. It's just a not basically arrow that I want to harvest a whitetail with, as some kind of trash arrow or whatever. Well, I just so happened to grab that arrow accidentally. And this buck had gone 30 yards south of me, and he was watching the combine. Well, I noticed then that there was a doe in there as well that he must have been with. She was watching me, and I was like, man, this is going to be bad. They're both going to take off here. But I had seen that I had that predator arrow on there, so I took it off, set it on my stand, and grabbed another one. Well, when I went to knock it up, the knock had come out of my arrow that I just took off and was still on my string. So I had to hold the other arrow in my hand, take the knock off, knock the arrow back up. The whole time, man, this deer never looked at me, man. He was honed in on that combine, and man, I was able to come to full draw. I shoot a single pin adjustable sight. I was able to knock that up to 30 yards, and I ended up having to to sit all the way down, like I was hanging off my harness to get a good clear shot on him, and man, I heart shot him. He never knew what hit him. He went 20 yards, never made it out of the woods, and just fell right over.
Good grief.
It was by far, man. I thought about Kurt the whole time because, man, I don't know how I could ever have a camera in there and got it all on video, man. I would have been like, you know, I'd have been totally up the creek without a paddle on that. There would have been a video of some trees, and that would have been about it, you know. But,
yeah, he's texting me the whole time during this hunt, and I remember it was pretty early in the day, or probably like an hour before dark, and he said something like, "Combine's in here." I think he said something like, I'm not seeing much, I should just go. I think I said something like, you know, just hang in there, whatever. And it wasn't like 10 minutes later, my phone rings, and he's like, I just shot I don't know, you said like the biggest buck of my life, or shot a stud. And I'm like, you know, just waiting for the pictures. And man, he sent me that first picture. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, never fails, you know, you're at work and everybody else out killing, and you want to be out there doing it. It hurts pretty bad. But that's cool, man. Like, not to have any history with a deer like that, and then to drop a stud like that, you know. I don't think the pictures do him justice, honestly. Like, till you actually get to physically hold that rack, it's pretty cool. He's got one of his eye guards almost has like an antelope looking drop to it.
Yeah.
It goes
Got
straight.
that curl.
Yeah, curl to it. Pretty cool.
Wow. So you had no idea this deer even existed until you saw it, correct?
Man, I didn't. You know, I had no idea that deer was there. You know, I mean, and I've always known deer to travel, you know, and so that's I've never like lost hope with being able to see a mature deer. You know, I mean, just because of the fact that I know during the rut the deer travel. You know, I mean, they'll go miles. You know, I mean, and it really got proven to me this year, like how far really a deer will go. And you know, for that, I had a neighbor of mine, we were with him watching 190-inch deer all spring. You know, I mean, and the deer in his home terminal, or in his home territory, he was there every day. You know what I mean? And then come the rut, that deer traveled 7 miles to a breeding territory or whatever, you know what I mean? Came back, end of December, came back to his home terminal, why do I keep saying terminal? His home territory. You know, he came back, and they ended up killing him muzzleloader season. You know, and like, I never really imagined a deer would travel that far.
Oh, yeah.
You know, but, you know, with my deer, I'd killed this deer, and I'd asked everyone around, you know, where this deer came from, and nobody knew where this deer came from. I could not, for the life of me, find out. Like, I'm talking to Kurt, like, we're trying to maybe find out some DNA on it or something, and see if, you know, if you can get something tested, just to kind of find out a little bit about him, maybe. But man, it was kind of driving me nuts. And come to find out, I found out where the deer's home territory was from Instagram.
Huh.
Some you know, whitetail page had shared my picture or whatever, and they had tagged me in it. I started looking through it, and somebody commented, said that's him. So I started looking this guy up, and he's like from Michigan. It's like,
Michigan.
Man, this guy's like 2 hours away. Like, how is this deer didn't travel that far? You know what I mean? Like, what's going on here? So like, I contacted the dude. I'm like, I'm a little confused as to how you know this deer. You know what I mean? If you're from Michigan or whatever. And come to find out, he had talked to me about it. He's got some family in the area that they hunt, you know, or whatever. Well, they had got some pictures from the car of him in a bean field, you know, like I said, 4.5 miles south of where I hunt. So, and that's where this gentleman that I contacted hunts, and he's like, yeah, that's where that deer home territory was, you know, was there.
Huh. Wow.
Yeah, so that was really cool. Kind of gave me some closing on, you know, where the deer was killed and that and whatnot. And man, I tell you, another guy that I work with hunts the woods just north of me, and he killed a deer that looks pretty similar to the deer that I killed. Like I almost think it must be a sibling or something. It was pretty wild, but he had never seen that deer either. So I don't think he ever did find out where his came from. But
man, that's crazy. Deer do some crazy things in traveling during the fall. It's insane.
Yeah, that's for sure. And you know, if I could give that advice to anyone, man, don't give up. You know, I mean, just if you don't have good deer pictures, it just doesn't mean that they're not going to show up. You know, I mean, it could change like it did for me in the matter of minutes, you know.
For sure, man. So this deer comes out, you miss your first shot. You know that this is a stud deer. What's going through your mind as you're trying to get that second arrow on and get another shot off?
I guess what's going through my mind is I'm trying to focus on the deer so I can explain to everyone what he looks like. So we can start hunting him again, you know, because I for sure didn't think I was ever going to get another shot off at him, you know what I mean? But man, I tell you, after I seen him run away when that blood was just pouring out of him, man, I'm like, my God, man, I would have never thought that deer was that big, you know what I mean? As I seen him running away, it's like, really got something on my hands here, you know?
Yeah, for sure, man. I know you've told me previously that you haven't gotten an official score or anything, but roughly how big is this deer?
Roughly, he's scored a little over 170, I believe.
Golly. And is that your?
Yeah, I think. I'm sorry. Yes, that is my biggest deer, and like I said, I believe he had, I think it was 6.5 or 7-inch bases on him.
Goodness.
He was by far my biggest deer.
That is awesome, man. Well, congratulations on a stud whitetail. That's a buck of a lifetime for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. And I really, it'll be hard pressed to beat him, you know, I think.
For sure. So, and I know our listeners who have been listening for a while, they know that we pregame our episodes and kind of come up with a game plan for the flow of conversation. So we talked prior to our episode today about your son, JT, and your wife also killing some nice deer here recently. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I guess, you know, to start with my wife, she's kind of slowed down a little bit in the deer hunting a little bit, just with family and that. You know, we don't really have the time to get together as much as we used to, you know, before we had kids and that. She still goes a little bit, you know, I mean, we still get her out when we can and that. And she had killed over about 163-inch deer when she was 8 months pregnant with our daughter, and a pair of tennis shoes and had bibs on and that, and killed it with a shotgun, man. And yeah, that was phenomenal. You know, her grandpa was able to be there for it, and you know, that's truly something there, you know, to ever kill a deer of that size, you know, being 8 months pregnant and all that. Our hunting camp was ecstatic, you know, for that. That was truly something there. Yeah, and then JT, you know, we've killed, this is probably his second buck. He killed a smaller 8-point last year, which was really cool. That we had, you know, good experience with that. He had a little buck chasing some does around and that. And this year he was hunting with his grandfather during gun season there, and had an opportunity at a monster deer. I mean, if it had a little more mass on it, man, I think it would outscore my deer.
Wow.
But man, it is just impressive, man. He brought one home, and it's a really nice deer as well. It's going to be a long time before he beats that one.
For sure. Wow, that's awesome for a kid like him to be able to get a buck that caliber. That's really cool.
Yeah, that's for sure. You know, now I just gotta try to keep him humble now. You know what I mean? I gotta try to keep him down to real life here, that those deer don't walk the woods every day, you know?
Yeah, and that's very true.
So.
Yeah, it's always important to try and keep the kids and the youth. I mean, it's awesome to see them have an opportunity to kill, like I said, like a deer like that. But in today's world with social media and all the big deer pictures that you see floating around, it's important to remind them, like you said, Jeff, that those deer don't walk the woods. Hunting's a challenge, and opportunities like that are a privilege for sure.
Yeah, that's for sure. You know, and like I try to keep that instilled into my children and any youth that I take, man. I try to, you know, bring as many kids or, you know, as I can along with us, you know, but it's trying to keep them on the trophy of the animal and not the trophy of the antlers, I guess. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I always try to make sure that everybody knows that any deer is a trophy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't care how big it is. If it gets your heart going, it's a trophy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I like to keep going. And I tell you, man, I'd like to think I'm doing a good job with my son, because he's I gotta buy him more bullets, man. He's not afraid to shoot. You know what I mean? He loves it, man. He runs me out of tags, man, every year. He'll kill anything, man. He loves it.
That's awesome. Well, it sounds like he's going down the right track then. It's not about the trophy, like you said. It's the animal in general. It's the experience. It's the memories. It's the opportunity. It sounds like he's got the bug and the passion for sure.
Yeah.
I don't think it's just the times we live in. You know, like when we were kids, you had like your monster buck episode that come out like once a year on VCR tape.
Yep.
And maybe like real treat. Yeah, you know, and you got that once a year and you're amped up about it and you just went to kill a deer. But like now, you can go home and sit on YouTube and just get lost in that thing, watching people shoot 180, 200-inch deer all day long, you know. And I hope it's not, you know, sticking to the new generation of hunters that's what hunting is about. You know, it's still important for us adults, teaching kids to still, you know, teach them the fundamentals of good sportsmanship, how to tracking deer, what a deer doing, you know. And it's not about point size. Yeah, we all love to kill a big one, but at the end of the day, man, I don't know what that would lead into if like some kid's just shooting 200 every year and then has a dry year. What is he going to hang it up? You know, I've always had the goal to keep pushing and keep going, and you know, I love to hunt. I love the sport. And I think that came from me starting out shooting small deer. And I still do shoot small deer. But, you know, every year I'm still trying to kill a big one. Yeah, that's fun. That's a challenge to myself, you know. But I think there's some people starting to open up about this now, about people on social media need to quit pounding it down these kids' throats about killing these monster, you know, turkey and deer, and like, let them enjoy it. You got to start with the foundation. You know, I think that's what keep people going for, you know, make a career out of it, basically. You know, I don't think hunting is like a 5-year thing and then you hang it up. You know, I've done it since I could legally, you know, get a tag, you know, and I continue to do it to the day I die.
Yeah.
So that's, you know, hopefully guys are starting to wake up, and I mean, everybody wants their kid to do the best and make a name for themselves, I guess. But and at the end of the day, it's about, you know, the family time and, you know, take good pictures too. That's another thing. I love looking back on the old pictures. We got it made now. You know, back when we killed stuff in the 90s, you had the old
35 millimeter.
Yeah, instant print, you know, and it's fuzzy and you got to write your name on the back, you know. And now, I mean, you get your phone out, you can take 200 pictures of what you kill. You can always delete them later, you know.
Yeah.
I preach that more than anything. I know, like JT was probably burned out holding his turkey last year. I was like, you could tell he was just like, how many more are we gonna take? You know, that's stuff that they get to look back on. Hopefully, you know, hang it in a trophy room, and that's what I like now is just looking back at the old photos. I'm finally getting old enough now where I can look back 20 years and be like, man, I remember that hunt. You know?
Yeah, man.
I think that's.
It's funny you mentioned like the old Bill Jordan monster buck videos and all that kind of stuff, because I can remember that my dad and I would always be excited to get the latest one, the latest, you know, it was VHS and then it turned into DVD later on, you know, and whatnot. But I mean, even into, you know, young adulthood, we were still, you know, excited about, you know, the latest hunting videos and stuff. And you're right, now you can look into on YouTube and find it all. And I really think that's an important thing that at least we try to do with some of our hunting videos and stuff at Fall Obsession is, you know, putting hunts on there that aren't quality. They're quality productions, but they're not, you know, monster animals, you know, and really, like you said, harping on the aspect of it being, you know, about the experience, about the memories, about the family and camaraderie of it all, you know, that's important. So
Yeah, and I honestly use YouTube and social media for more educational purposes. When I'm cruising videos, looking at deer hunts and stuff, I want to know what the guy did, how he did it, you know, is there anything that he did that applies to maybe my situation where I hunt? You know, I could care less about looking at the horn size. You know, yeah, it's cool seeing a big buck, but I don't get hung up on that part. You know, I want to look and see. I want to break down the details of what happened in that hunt, you know?
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, and I guess if I could add, you know, a little bit to that as well, you know, the one thing that I really try to instill is that's my deer. You know what I mean? Like if you see a wild deer, you get one guy that says, yeah, that's my deer out there. You know what I mean? Like, and they want to keep it a secret, you know what I mean? And you know, stay out of there, blah, 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 blah. Like, that drives me more nuts than anything, you know what I mean? When somebody tries to claim a wild deer to be theirs, you know what I mean? Like, and it's sad kind of like how that has gone to be the new normal. You know, I remember when I was a kid, you know, hunting with my grandpa, like, everybody was helping everybody excited, you know what I mean, to see a buck, you know what I mean? And now it's like, you know, people, oh, that's, you know, that's my deer. I don't need you back there, you know what I mean, trying to kill my deer or whatever. And that's definitely one thing I'm trying for my family to not get into that cycle, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Nothing's a secret, man. I'll share my deer pictures with anybody. I don't feel like that's the way things should go, you know?
Right.
And with Ohio, you know, like, it's kind of silly to get hung up on one deer. Yeah, you might have a target deer, but like Jeff said, you shouldn't give up because you might not see a good one. Like, your neighbors might be practicing the same management that you do, and you don't even know the guy. You know, he might be letting 3-year-olds walk, and he probably is putting minerals down like everybody else here. That's why our quality of deer, I think, is getting bigger. I mean, it's hard to get in some places to hunt. That does have an effect too. But, you know, I just like Jeff said, you know, don't give up, you know, and if you're not after something, you know, if you can't find a bruiser to get on, you know, whatever, just hang it, you know, enjoy it, have fun, because you never know what's going to happen here, especially with the combine. You know, you hear that saying like the combine's a deer's dinner bell. And if you've never experienced that, it is true. Like if you know, you know, because I never believed it, you know, until because you know, you think about it, you got to be in the woods at the right time. That dude might not even harvest that day or that week that you're in there, and to actually catch a combine coming by when you're out in the woods, that's actually something pretty special, because you do get to see how these deer respond around farm equipment. You know, I've heard it through the farmers all the years, you know, like, yeah, they just jump a row over when you're harvesting, you know, and I'm kind of like, I can't picture that in my head, you know, a massive piece of equipment running like that, and the deer aren't even afraid of it. But as soon as you put your boot on the ground, they're gone. You know, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around that concept. So I know it's a little off topic, but
no, not at all.
Don't give up.
For sure.
Yeah, and that, to get back on that, you know, I'm sure a lot of people have seen it, but, you know, just around us here, within 20 miles of us, I would say that old Fort buck was found dead here. I don't know if you've seen that, Sam, or not, but that was a 200 32-inch deer or something like that.
Goodness.
Yeah. You know, and he was right on a state route. Everybody's seen him, you know what I mean? But everybody was stuck on the one spot, you know what I mean, the one woods that deer was at. And he had traveled outside of that, you know what I mean? But no one was ever, you know, lucky enough to kill him. But, you know, those deer are out there. But
Yeah, how many times do you hear guys say, I've never had pictures of that buck and kill him, you know?
Right,
So
right.
that's what sticks in my head, like every time I'm out. Like those guys that shoot some dandy buck, you know, and they're like, man, I've never had that deer on our farm before, you know? So, like, what are you chasing other than just trail cam pictures?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah.
You never know. You never know.
We've had several guys on our podcast in previous episodes too talk about that. I know one of our early episodes, I believe it's episode 8, one of our own staffers, Waylon Langford, came on here and he shot a 200+ inch whitetail, low fence, free range on his lease, and, you know, had no idea that caliber deer was running around out there. Buck of a lifetime,
Right.
you know. Or
Right.
when we visited with Chad Allen Jones too, he came on, and I mean, he had some pictures prior to killing the deer, but, you know, put cameras out on this place and was shocked with the buck that he saw showing up. So yeah, they're like you both have said, they're out there, they're hiding, and, you know,
Yeah.
it's not something everybody sees, but they are out there for sure. Well, guys, I really appreciate both of y'all coming on again for this week's episode. I know, like we mentioned last week, turkey's on the brain. Turkey season's coming up, if not already started. But it's kind of funny. We keep falling back to deer hunting and whitetails. So our passion in the fall is strong. But I know that everybody's excited to chase spring birds too. So looking forward to seeing what's coming up this upcoming year.
Yeah. Don't forget to get in it in our contest at Fall Obsession for the turkey contest.
Absolutely.
You got a good chance of winning because Jeff and I only shoot Jakes.
I'll keep
You
that
can
in mind.
count us out. We've already counted our losses on this one.
Yeah, so if you guys haven't heard yet, we do at Fall Obsession, we are hosting a 2021 turkey hunt competition. So you can team up with a family member or hunting buddy and enter, basically submit your birds that you kill within our hunt date range this season, and be entered to win one of our 3 categories and some cash money. And the more people we have register for this hunt competition, the bigger the cash pots are going to get. So be sure that you guys get in on that. More info on that is at fallobsession.com. You guys can check it out. And real quick, while we're talking about turkey hunting, be sure you go back 1 week if you haven't already and check out our turkey hunting podcast episode with Jeff and Kurt here that we had last week. But really appreciate you guys tuning in. If you haven't already, hit that follow and subscribe button, whatever app you choose to listen to your podcasts on. We're on all the major podcast platforms. fallobsession.com is the hub. That is where you can find all of our content, as well as our apparel. We have t-shirts on sale right now. Also have a new turkey hunting spring thunder hat design that you guys can pick up. And subscribe to us on social media and follow us, Facebook, Instagram, and our YouTube channel. And Jeff and his son JT and Kurt, they have several videos over the past year and past few months that they've submitted and put on our YouTube channel. So be sure that you guys go and check that out. And I'm sure that we're going to have you guys on here again, whether it's on the podcast or some videos. You guys we'll be getting some more content from y'all in the near future, I'm sure. So.
yeah, hopefully we'll have a few turkey videos for you.
Yep, it's going to happen.
Well, we're looking forward to it and looking forward to see what not only the spring season has in store for you guys, but also when we get to the fall and whitetails are back on the brain. Look forward to seeing what you guys come up with. So appreciate you guys coming on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, man, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. It's our pleasure, guys. Well, everyone, thank y'all for listening, and we will catch you guys again next week for another Fall Obsession podcast episode.